Hello, all. Welcome again to History in 3 with Dr. JC. Dr. John Chappell here. Today's focus Sachsenhausen. Located in Oranienburg, Germany, north of Berlin, Sachsenhausen was a Nazi concentration camp. Thus, while not perhaps the most uplifting of historical focuses, an important one just the same. Visitors today will pass through this same set of gates, a portal of sorts, into the inner compound and misery of those that were interred here, not just during Nazi occupation and control, but later under Soviet control. Arbeit macht frei. Work sets free. Work sets you free. For some, it did, literally, through exhaustion and death. Now, Sachsenhausen wasn't established to be a death or extermination camp, at least initially. Rather, it was erected to house political prisoners and, importantly, to train Schutzstaffel officers. The SS officers or Schutzstaffel officers would receive what one might consider today an experiential education. And I don't mean that in a positive light. They would be given instruction on how to organize a camp, design a camp, develop a camp, at the same time trying to figure out what is the best way to eliminate political prisoners. Hence the importance of Sachsenhausen, not just at the time but in history and memory. This is the place where mass extermination of others, those others determined by Nazi Party officials, was conceived, tested, perfected, and a blueprint established for use at larger camps to be erected in the future, such as camps we might recognize more readily today, such as Auschwitz. But it's Sachsenhausen where the Auschwitzes were conceived. The Nazis chose Oranienburg because of its location on the Havel River. It was a major river that would provide fresh water not just for the camp, but the ability to move men and material from the camp as well. With regard to the movement of men and materials, it's important to understand that a key component of Sachsenhausen is that it was a labor camp. Outside the western perimeter, some 6,000 to 8,000 prisoners worked in Heinkel Industries, helping develop the HE-177 or long-range German bomber. Others worked for Siemens or a brick factory that was there. Inside the camp, specialized work was done by the prisoners. As a way to try to undermine the British and American economies, the largest counterfeiting operation ever recorded took place in Sachsenhausen. It was known as Operation Bernhard, or Bernhard as they might say in the English. Thus, while other prisoners were used as lab rats of sorts to test out all sorts of military equipment, performance-enhancing drugs, shall we say, it is important to note that several prisoners were used for specialized work. Yet not all of the some 200,000 that passed through Nazi-controlled Sachsenhausen worked in specialized labor. In fact, they were excess labor. These are the individuals that were targeted for perfecting modes of execution. Rather than spoiling everyone's mood today by sharing the particular modes of execution, for those interested, you should look them up. I would encourage that you do. I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention that by 1941, camp authorities in Sachsenhausen had determined that the use of gas was going to be the best way to get rid of the largest amount of people in the most efficient and expeditious manner. Prior to closing, because I have run over my 3 minutes here, I wanted to talk quickly about the Soviet post-war use of Sachsenhausen. Following Germany's defeat in 1945, the Soviets or Russians made use of Sachsenhausen to inter prisoners, inmates, Nazi functionaries, anyone that might have been found an other by Soviet military tribunals. While not officially part of Stalin's Gulag system, it was a subcomponent of that. Sachsenhausen did become the largest of 3 special camps in the Soviet-occupied zone. And of the roughly 60,000 that were interred there over this approximate 5-year period, almost 12,000 would die from exposure, malnutrition, and disease. Thus, the final butcher's bill associated with Sachsenhausen, whether it be under Nazi or Soviet control, was approximately 40 to 45,000 of the roughly 250,000 that were interred there, about 15%, with by far a much larger percentage that perished under Soviet rather than Nazi occupation. Yet when one visits Sachsenhausen today, and I hope you all will, one should perhaps get an honorary doctorate if they can figure out exactly how many souls perished as a result of the Nazis' use of Sachsenhausen as an experimental lab. For History in 3 with Dr. JC, sorry it ran a little closer to 5 this go around. I want to say thanks just the same for checking out this Sachsenhausen focus today. I'd ask you all to dig a little bit deeper. If you get a chance to visit, please do. And I'd ask too that you consider tuning into other History in 3 with Dr. JC short history takes in the future. Thanks again, Dr. JC saying so long for now.